and we exalt your mighty name. All our days, you are the light, and we exalt your mighty name. Yahuah, Yahuah, you are the light, and we exalt your mighty name. Yahuah, Yahuah, you are the light, and we exalt your mighty name. You have a mighty arm, your hand is strong, your right hand lifted up on high. You have a mighty arm, your hand is strong, your right hand lifted up on high. You have a mighty arm, your hand is strong, your right hand lifted up on high. You have a mighty arm, your hand is strong, your right hand lifted up on high. Let us sing for joy all our days. You are the light, and we exalt your mighty name. Sing for joy all our days. You are the light, and we exalt your mighty name. Yahuah, Yahuah, you are the light, and we exalt your mighty name. Yahuah, Yahuah, you are the light, and we exalt your mighty name. You are the light, and we exalt your mighty name. You are the light, and we exalt your mighty You have a mighty arm, your hand is strong, your right hand is lifted up on high. You have a mighty arm, your hand is strong, your right hand is lifted up on high. You have a mighty arm.
Hear, O Yisrael, Yahuah our Elohim, Yahuah is one. And you shall love Yahuah your Elohim with all your heart, and with all your being, and with all your might. And these words which I am commanding you today shall be in your heart, and you shall impress them upon your children. And you shall speak of them when you sit in your house, and when you walk by the way, and when you lie down, and when you rise up. And shall bind them as a sign on your hand, and they shall be as frontlets between your eyes. And you shall write them on the doorpost of your house and on your gates. And the second is like it: you shall love your neighbor as yourself. Hallelujah. Shabbat shalom, everybody. Glad to see y'all again. What a fast week this was. It was like zoom gone. So yeah, glad to be here. Glad to be with the Natsarim. Glad to be singing and praising Yahuah on this Yom Shabbat, the day of delight, the sign of his people. Those who rest on his Shabbat belong to him. And it is signed as to whom we serve if we rest on the seventh Yom. All righty. So let me greet some people here, and then I'll tell you a little bit about what we'll be studying this evening. And I think we're all going to be amazed at what Yahuah is going to reveal to us this evening. So here we go. Peggy Russell, love you. Glad you're here. Lou White, love you, brother. Glad you're here. Joseph Hessen, glad you're here, brother. Bruce Baginski, glad you're here, brother. Phyllis White, glad you're here, sister. Love you. Love you, Jules Ann, glad you're here. Love you, Yami and Rule. Koto, glad y'all are here. The Crossing, glad you're here. Tad Boyd, glad you're here, brother. Dave Messenger, glad you're here, brother. Yahuah is the treasure, right on, glad you're here. Sandra Brunston, glad you're here, sister, love you. All right, as people trickle in, we'll go ahead and begin. So very powerful presentation and study this evening from Yahusha, and it's going to be all about the return of the King and the day of Yahuah. So we'll try to cover as much as possible. Obviously, we're not going to cover it all. It's just too massive of a subject, and actually, it's two subjects, two studies. So we'll do the best we can. So I think one of the most amazing parts of this study here is that we're going to find out, and we're going to see that things happen in the Yom in the evening time during the lesser light. Lots of things happen. Yahushua was resurrected in the evening in the lesser light, basically probably very early on the fourth Yom, which would have been in the evening after twilight was over. And we know for a fact there's so much scripture on it, and we're going to get into it. But there's a lot of scripture that says the day of Yahuah will be total darkness. And so the greater light and the lesser light apparently is going to be turned off. Lights out. Okay, it's going to be total darkness, a day of darkness, no light upon the earth anyway. And then amazingly, as I've been studying this week, I've noticed that it appears that the return of the King will happen on the night watch as well, during the lesser light. And possibly at midnight, okay, which would be in the Romans count of watches, it would be the second watch. In the Hebrew count of watches, it would be during the second watch. Okay, so some of you maybe say, what you talking about, Brother Mark? Well, Scripture has what we call a Yom. The Yom consists of a 24-hour period. Half of it is the lesser light, which begins the Yom. The second half, if you will, is the greater light, which is the second half of the Yom. So 12 hours and 12 hours makes 24 hours in the Yom. Okay. During the lesser light, the first 12 hours of the Yom, the Hebrews traditionally separated it into 3 watches. So that would be 3 4-hour watches. So if you were in the military, armed forces of Israel, and you were assigned to guard duty, you would be guarding the walled city or whatever you were assigned to guard for 4 hours shift. And then you would be relieved by other soldiers, and they would, of the Israeli army, and they would take their shift of 4 hours. And then the third night shift, if you want to call it that, would be another 4 hours. And so they would be relieved and replaced by other soldiers to keep fresh, awake soldiers so they don't fall asleep on their watch and the enemy gets to come in and raid the city and kill everybody because the guards are asleep. So they want to keep fresh guards rotating during the night watch. Do everybody sleep except for the guards? No. A lot of people are up doing work. The shepherds are in the fields guarding their flocks from the predators, and things like this is going on during the lesser light hours, or the night watch, if you will. Although the Hebrews traditionally has 3 watches during the Leah, we're going to find out that they kind of converted over in the Roman captivity, and they actually started accepting or practicing the Roman watches, which was 4 instead of 3. So the Romans watches, in which the Hebrews adopted, Israel adopted them, and we'll find that evidence out. Even matter of fact, Yahuah himself went ahead and accepted the Roman watches of 4 watches. So what does that mean? 4 periods of 3 hours through the night. So each watch was 3 hours, and there was 4 of them instead of in the traditional Hebrew, there were 3 watches, 4 hours apiece. See, so they just added another watch, probably because it was easier on the guards, the people that were assigned to watch over the others as they slept. It's a whole lot easier to stay awake in the middle of the night for 3 hours than it is for 4 hours. Matter of fact, the United States Army, and I think the rest of their armed forces in the United States, we also perform guard duties, and ours is only 2 hours long. So it would be two hours, 6-hour shifts, okay, for 2 hours. Because they want wide awake guards. They don't want anybody sleeping on guard duty. All right, so what are these watches? Well, in the Hebrew tradition, you're going to see where this is going to come into the return of the king and the day of Yahuah. It's very important. It's going to feed it, and you'll see as we get into it. But it's important we understand this before we start reading scripture. So we got to get this, and then we're going to get into it real deep. So in the Hebrew tradition with the 3 watches, okay, with the 4-hour periods, 3 of them, 6 in the evening to 10 would be the first watch. So this first watch would include twilight. Okay, so at 6 p.m., even if it begins to be twilight, where basically the sun has gone down below the horizon and it cannot be seen, but we still have light from it, so we can still see light. That's twilight. Usually lasts about a half hour or so, give or take. 6 to 10 is the first watch. Then the second watch would obviously be from 10 to 2, 4-hour period. And then this would include midnight, which, some people say is the darkest part of the Leah, or the darkest of the watches. But it's from 10 o'clock our time, say if we're talking our language, 10 o'clock p.m. at night to 2 o'clock in the morning a.m. Okay, speaking our language. The second watch includes midnight. The third watch then would go from 2 in the morning to 6 a.m. And this third watch would include dawn, And when the sun is still below the horizon, we can't see the sun yet, but the light from the sun we're able to see. Okay. And so this would be dawn. And then this third watch would also include the rooster crowing. That would be part of the third watch. So dawn and the rooster crowing belongs to the third watch. Okay. Okay. So over to the Roman 4 watches, which was accepted by Yahushua and the Hebrews, and they practiced it, and we're going to get proof of it. Is that from 6 to 9 would be the first watch, which includes twilight. 9 to midnight, or 12 a.m. for us, would be the second watch, and that would include midnight. So they would get off, switch guards right at midnight. Okay. And then the third watch would be from midnight or 12 to 3 in the morning. And then the fourth watch would be from 3 o'clock in the morning to 6 a.m. And this fourth watch would include dawn, the dawn of the same Yom, but the greater light dawning, and the rooster crow. The rooster crowing would happen during this fourth watch. Okay, so we're going to concentrate now mostly on the Roman 4 watches, because this is the one Yahushua accepted. Okay, so there's going to be 4 watches, 3 hours each. The first watch, the second watch, the third watch, and the fourth watch. During what? Leah. During the lesser light. The hours of the lesser light. Okay? All right. Now, so with that said, we're going to get also into the day of Yahuah, and I have found some truth that I didn't really know about until I started studying this week, and Yahushua revealed it to me, was that the day of leading up to the day of Yahuah, the return of the king. In the return of the king, there's a sequence of events, and what they are is the first one, and it's coming first, would be the first one that we'll experience, will be tribulation, or the distress, which is roughly 3.5 years. At the end of the 6,000 years allotted to mankind, it's the very last 3.5 years. Then it's over. Okay, then, millennium reign time, right? 1,000 years of peace. So the tribulation, or the great distress, immediately after the distress comes the day of Yahuah and total darkness. Then, after the day of Yahuah, comes the return of the king, Yahushua. And then, shortly afterwards, or during the return of the king, I should say, is the first resurrection, the revealing of the bride. So I didn't quite understand that sequence, but I do now. And you will too before this evening's over. Okay. So now it's important to realize that after the great distress or the tribulation years, immediately after, that means there ain't no time in there. So as soon as the clock ticks, the last second ticks off of the clock, it's allotted for mankind, appointed by Yahuah, comes the day of Yahuah. It's immediate. There's no time. You ain't even got time to wipe the sweat off your brow. That's how fast it's coming. after the great distress, the time period Yahuwah gave for the distress is over. Immediately comes the day of Yahuwah. And it's very important to understand that. So, like I said, I'm at this understanding here that the return of the King of Kings is going to happen during one of the night watches. I mean, he was resurrected during the first night watch. And we'll have proof of that. We'll get into it. If you're sitting there going, oh, no, he wasn't. Well, you're arguing against Scripture because I'm going to show you Scripture says he was. Don't shoot the messenger. So the resurrection of Yahuwah, after he was in his tomb for 3 days and 3 nights, was during the first watch. So if the first watch is such an evil thing, and darkness and evil and wickedness, and we're all supposed to hide and not work during it, why did Yahushua resurrect during the first watch of the fourth Leah, after he spent 3 days and 3 nights, or 3 nights and 3 days, I should say, in the tomb? So you can see it's kind of a sticky situation, but we all need to understand it. So Yahushua rose early on the 4th Yom during the lesser light, and even more precise during the first watch of the Leah. And I'm talking about the Roman. Now we're going to spend the rest of the time when I refer to the first watch, second watch, third watch, or fourth watch, we're using the Roman watches, okay? Because they adapted over to it. So we have to, in order to be precise with the scriptures of truth and be spot on with what it's teaching us, okay? So just to give you a little taste of what we're going to get into, let's look at John 20. John 20, verse 1. Hi, Phil. Glad you're here, brother. Mr. 3 Jobs, glad you're here. Okay, so here we go. We're at Yahuchanan 20, Echad. And on the first Yom of the Shabuah of the week, okay, first day of the week, so we all know that this would be Sunsday, okay? From Miriam from Magdala came early to the tomb. Okay, so the Shabbat had to be over, or she wouldn't be heading to no tomb during the Shabbat. So obviously now the Shabbat was over, in the first day or the first Yom of the Shabuah had begun. And it says she came early to the tomb. Early. That means as soon as the Shabbat was over and the next Yom began, she went to the tomb early on that Yom, while it was still dark. It was still dark. Okay, so it was dark when she arrived there and saw that the stone had been removed from the tomb. So if she went early, that means that she had to arrive sometime on the first watch, right? And remember what we said the first watch was. For the Romans, it was from 6 to 9. And it includes twilight. So basically, this is telling us that since Miriam came early to the tomb while it was still dark, so it's saying it was dark. It had gotten dark, it was still dark, but she went early, okay? while it was still dark, and saw that the stone had been removed from the tomb. Okay, we can look at this two different ways. We can look at it that this was early on that fourth yom, on the first watch, which would be from 6 to 9. Or we can say, okay, it was still on the fourth yom, but perhaps it was where it says came early to the tomb while it was still dark, may mean that she came early before dawn. It was still dark, so now she would have came on the fourth watch. Okay, so it did not dawn, it did not turn into the greater light yet, which tells us that Yahusha rose sometime between the first watch and the fourth watch, because he couldn't stay the whole night. If he would have stayed in the tomb the entire Leah through the 4 watches, okay, and didn't resurrect until dawn or daybreak, that would have put him in the tomb for 4 nights. And scripture plainly says he was only in the tomb for 3 nights, 3 full nights. See what I'm saying? So since it says that she came early to the tomb while it was still dark, we must assume it was either during the first watch or the 4th watch. And if it was the first watch, that means Yahusha resurrected his own body between 6 and 9 p.m. on the 4th yom. If he remained in his tomb until the 4th watch, that means that he resurrected his body between 3 a.m. and 6 a.m. on the 4th watch. Before dawn, it had to be before dawn, before any light was seen, and during the rooster crowing. Before the rooster crowed, because they usually crow as soon as they see the dawn, the crack of dawn, they would crow, unless they're lazy. Okay, so that's really the only 2 choices. I don't see him resurrecting during the 2nd or 3rd watch, according to what this says. So interestingly, let's look real quick at Proverbs. We can go to Proverbs 7. Keeping in mind what we were just talking about, go to Proverbs 7:9, and it says, in the twilight, remember what the twilight is, in the evening, in the black and dark Leah. This is describing the first watch. Okay, and it talks about some young men going out and finding not so good avashas to hang around with. But what this is telling us, what's important about this, Proverbs 7:9, is in the twilight, in the evening, comma, in the black and dark Leah, which would be what? The 2nd watch, or the beginning of the 3rd watch, the end of the 2nd watch, beginning of the 3rd watch around midnight, in the black and dark Leah. Okay. In the twilight, in the evening, comma, in the black and dark Leah. So this is the first watch going into the 2nd watch. This young guy is running around with a whore that left her home. It says staying home like she should have been. So this helps us to understand that twilight in the evening belongs to the first watch, which is 6 to 9 during the Roman watches, the 4 watches of the Romans. Then, of course, if you want to rebuke that. You don't want nothing to do with the Romans, which I don't know why you wouldn't. If Yahushua accepted it, we should also. But if you don't, then it would be from 6 to 10. Okay. And then it is pretty evident then in the black and dark Leah that we went beyond now the first watch and we're into the second watch. If you go in Hebrew, it would be from 10 to 2. So you'd be in the second watch, which includes midnight. And then, of course, in the Romans, it'd be 9 to 12. And then the third watch begins at midnight as well and goes to 3. So you're right in there somewhere. Okay. So that shows us that twilight belongs to Leah. It's not the beginning of the day. It's the end of the previous day, the preceding day, the preceding Yom, I should say. So you can't say that the Yom is just count the day. So, okay, so Yahushua was in the tomb in the great light, the greater light, during the daylight hours, right? Not the night watches, not the lesser light, 12-hour period, but the other half. And then he didn't count that day, that night, nor that night. So that night and that night makes one night. And then the day, skip that night to the next day equals that one day. Makes no sense. There's no division in a Yom. A Yom has to be a 24-hour period. That's why we had and so do we, but they had 4 night watches. 4 watches. Because they weren't splitting up the Yom. They were splitting up the Leah to keep people awake so they could watch for the enemies or anybody that would try to come in while the majority of the citizens slept in the walled cities. Or the shepherds out in the fields also perhaps split watch among them. They gathered all their flocks together, and one shepherd or 2, whatever, stayed up during the first watch, and then the next guard, woke the guys up. They did the second, and they went to sleep, and they woke the next ones up. They did the third watch, and they went to sleep, and they woke the other ones up, and they did the fourth watch, to guard the sheep from predators or perhaps thieves coming in trying to, steal their livestock during the lesser light. People can get away with things more during the lesser light than they can the greater light. That's why convicts or criminals or unbelievers, whatever you want to call them, they like to go out and do their dirty tricks at night because they know it's harder for you to see who they are. It doesn't mean Yahuah made the night evil. That just means the criminals are taking advantage of the lesser light to do their criminal activity. Okay, so now you can see where we're going with this, but you're in for lots and lots of amazing things here as we continue through. Okay, so that brings us to our Torah portion this evening. Simo TWD, glad you're here, man. And our Torah portion will be Mark 13. Mark 13. It's our Torah portion this evening. I'm in the BYNV, and we're going to be reading out of Mark 13 this evening for our Torah portion. All right. So we're going to ease into it, and then we're going to get deep. Jerry Richter, glad you're here, brother. All right, here we go. Mark 13. If you have your BYNV, please open it up to Mark 13 and read along. And as he went out of the Kadesh place, one of his Talmudim said to him, "Teacher, see what stones and what buildings." And Yahusha answering said to him, do you see these great buildings? Not one stone shall be left upon another at all, which shall not be thrown down. And as he sat on the Mount of Olives, opposite the set apart place, Kepha and Yakub and Yahuchanan and Andri asked him separately, say to us, when shall these events be? And what shall be the signal when all this is going to be accomplished? And Yahusha began to say to them, take heed that no one leads you astray. For many shall come in my name, saying, I am he, and they shall lead many astray. And when you hear of wars, and does that mean that right there in verse 5, does that mean that these people coming, leading many astray, coming in his name, are they actually saying that they're Yahusha? Or perhaps are they saying that they're the J-Man? Or are they just coming and bringing the Basora in the name of the J-Man or the Yahusha? Would be a false doctrine then, if it was in the name of Yahusha, because they're leading people astray. If they were speaking truth, the Basora of Yahusha, they wouldn't be leading people astray. See what I'm saying? So it has to be a false doctrine. If there's, so are they saying he's them by name? I'm him. It's what it says they're saying. So even a lot of these false prophets, uninformed teachers, so forth and so on, that are out there doing things that people get freaked out because, oh, see, that's in scripture. They must be a demon. They're not really saying that they're Yahusha. There's some nuts out there running around saying they're the J-Man. That's been happening for a while, but they're still far and few in between. See what I'm saying? So it's saying, for they shall come in my name saying, I am he. So they're going to be saying to people that they are either the J-Man, or if they're misled, cuckoo and misled, or they're going to say coming in the name of Yahusha if they're aware of his true name, but the doctrine will be false. It'll be a false Basora. Okay. So I don't see that happening a whole lot right now. You know what I'm saying? There's false prophets out there. There's wolves in sheep clothing out there. There's uninformed teachers out there leading the lamb astray, but not too many of them saying, I'm Yahusha, follow me, I'm he. Or I'm the J-Man, bow down to me, I'm the J-Man. There's not a whole lot of them saying that. Just a few cuckoos here and there. See what I'm saying? So don't get all excited about these false teachers and wolves in sheep clothing. They're out there, but the ones that he's speaking of, Yahusha's speaking about and warning us about here, are going to claim to be him. So if they ain't doing that, then you know that we're not real close to the tribulation. We're not in the tribulations. I think if we go into the tribulation years of 3.5 years, the last 3.5, you're probably going to be seeing that happening. I think this is what he's talking about, is the tribulation years. There's going to be a lot of false prophets out there claiming to be him and going by his name. Okay? See the difference? All right. And when you hear of wars and reports of wars, do not be troubled. It has to take place, but the end is not yet. So we're definitely seeing that going on right now. Big time. For ethnicity shall rise up against ethnicity, and reign against reign. And there shall be earthquakes in various places, and there shall be scarcities of food and disturbances. These are the beginnings of the birth pains. So we're seeing all that happen. So we could be in the beginning of the birth pains right now. It's heightened and it's compact, happening at the same time. It never did before. These things have all happened for a long time, but never all of them at once, compact, happening all at once, all around the earth. So we could be in the beginning of the birth pains for sure. But take heed to yourselves, be careful, be alert, be sober, be awake. Take heed to yourselves, for they shall deliver you up to councils and to assemblies. You shall be beaten, and you shall be brought before rulers and sovereigns for my sake, for a witness to them. So this is here, I think he's either directly talking to his Talmudim, because this all happened to them, okay? Same thing that happened to Yahushua happened to them. They were all beaten and killed and all this, right? Some were brought before rulers. I mean, we know they were because we can read about them being brought before rulers and the Pharisees and stuff, and being smacked around and beaten and thrown back out and told not to. You don't use that name anymore. Don't speak that name Yahushua anymore, and throw it out. So we read all about that, so we know that happened to them, and sovereigns for my sake, for a witness to them. So it's either he's like changing the subject from the future, from prophecy, and talking directly to them now, or during the tribulation years, we can see this kind of prosecution happening. I don't see a whole lot of that now, but we do see some in foreign countries, especially a little bit in this country. So I think that if it is talking about the tribulations, then it's going to heighten. It's going to get magnified and get seen more often, where true believers are going to be brought in front of rulers and get in trouble for using the true name again. Maybe not obeying the Noahic laws or whatever, right? Who knows? Okay, so anyway, and the Besorah has to be proclaimed first to all the nations, which I think it pretty much has. I mean, it's translated in almost every single country now. Whether they like it or love it is a different story, but pretty much every country knows about the Creator and the Messiah. And when they led you away, notice it says first to all nations. So it doesn't say to all the people. See, so I've heard some uninformed teachers say that the Besorah has to be proclaimed to every living person on the earth and every creature before he comes back. But it doesn't really say that. It says proclaimed first to all the nations. So as long as it's the translations in every nation, doesn't matter if 10 people in that nation's heard the Besorah of Yahushua or a million, doesn't really say. It just says as long as the nation itself has had the Besorah brought to it. See what I'm saying? And I'm pretty sure it has. I think it's printed in every language for around the earth. I'm pretty sure I read that somewhere. If it ain't every single one, boy, it's close. And when they lead you away and deliver you up, do not worry beforehand what you are to say. But whatever is given you in that hour, speak that, for it is not you who are speaking, but the Ruach HaKodesh. So there you go. He could still be talking to just change the subject back to them, letting them know what they can expect in their lifetimes, says Talmudim. Okay, or if it is prophetic for the tribulation years, obviously then there's going to be testimony in front of rulers and courts and stuff for the Natsarim to have to endure. And we won't have to worry about what we say because the Ruach HaKodesh will be speaking through us as he does now. And brother shall deliver up brother to death. To death. And a father his child to death, man. That's inconceivable, isn't it? And children shall rise up against parents and shall put them to death. To death. So we're not, I mean, I don't think we're seeing a whole lot of that right now, but it sounds like this division in the family um, with relatives and friends and so forth and so on, people you would trust, you're going to be greatly betrayed, even to death. So if they come up and say, anyone saying the name Yahusha will be punished by death, they just say that, or anyone not obeying the Noahic laws would be put to death, and then your child turns you in because you're not doing it. Or maybe anyone caught keeping Yom Shabbat who isn't of Hebrew descent will be put to death, right? Penalty. And then your brother turns you in, says, oh, he's obeying the Sabbath, go get him. And the law comes, breaks your door down, grabs you, throws you out, and hangs you on a tree or something, right? Chops off your head. I think the scripture actually says they do to you. So this ain't happening yet. So that sounds prophetic to me. I mean, it could have happened somewhat back in that day, but I think there's a prophetic fulfillment there in what he's saying. So 13 says, and you shall be hated by all because of my name. See, so now all of a sudden his name becomes part of the equation. So apparently, back then, we already know they were hated and prosecuted for using the true name. So it could apply to them. But I think this is prophetic. I think we're going to see that again. And they're going to come after you. If somebody reports you, they're using that Yahusha name again, they're going to come and get you and put you to death. That's what it sounds like. But he who shall have endured to the end, he shall be delivered. So if you don't betray him, if you don't renounce his name, you will be delivered. So I guess what Yahushua is trying to tell us here is when we're beaten down and trodden upon, we're to get up and keep fighting the good fight. You got to endure to the end no matter what we go through. And when you see the abomination that lays waste, spoken of by Daniel the prophet, set up where it should not be, he who reads, let him understand. Then let those who are in Yahudah flee to the mountains. Okay, so this seems to me, let's just say there's more than one abomination that lays waste, but there's a particular one that Daniel speaks of, which is Yahushua's pointing out here. So it's Daniel's abomination that lays waste. Okay, so Daniel, abomination that lays waste, seems to be suggesting the rise of the anti-Mashiach. Okay, a real person who's going to stand upon the Mount of Olives and claiming to be Yahuah. So there's the ultimate false prophet, right? It's I don't think now the abomination up on the Temple Mount right now that we all know is called the Dome of the Rock. Okay, the Dome of the Rock. We know everybody should probably know what that is. It's a big dome building up on top of the Temple Mount in Israel. Okay, so the Dome of the Rock was built roughly in the 7th century. Okay, it was placed up there by the Muslims during the 7th century. And so this is known by believers and the people who call themselves Israel over there now, Israeli citizens, do refer to the Dome of the Rock as an abomination of desolation, and it is. But did everybody flee to the mountains when they built that? Did everybody pray that their flight not be in the wintertime? And the women were prayed they wouldn't be pregnant. And did they flee during the building of that thing or any time afterwards? And the answer is no. I mean, I looked it up. I couldn't find anything that said that the people ran out of Jerusalem and ran to the mountains and fled away when they built the Dome of the Rock during the somewhere around 685 to 691 AD, we'll just say. So 6-year period there. I couldn't find it. If there's something out there that says they did that, I sure couldn't find it. I looked for a while. But the amazing thing here about this particular Dome of the Rock spot, we'll just say, if it's actually truly the spot, it would be called the navel of the earth, and or the foundation stone inside that Dome of the Rock, which they call the navel of the earth, would be the foundation stone of the temple. Okay, so there's also Hebrew tradition that suggests that this is where creation began. So this would be where Yahushua would be facing west, looking to the east. Okay. This would also be where Abraham took Yitzhak or Isaac to sacrifice him as a blood offering or burnt offering. Would be the same exact spot. So this particular place would be where there would be an image of the beast or the image of the anti-Mashiach, let's say, put upon that. Now that could be like back a long time ago when they placed a statue of Zeus up there. That was also an abomination of desolation, right? So it could be something similar to that. It's a possibility as well. And not only are we talking about more than one abomination, desolation, but we're also, or abomination that lays waste according to Daniel, and we're also talking about literal and spiritual. It could be implemented here, either or both. Okay. All right. So just a thought, just some thoughts I'm sharing there with that. You guys do your own studying. You want to know more about all that and what you see where Yahushua leads you. But so anyway, let's continue on. And he who is on the housetop, let him not go down into the house, nor come in to take whatever out of his house. And he who is in the field, let him not go back to get his coat. And woe to those who are pregnant and to those nursing children in those yamim, those days, includes day and night, lesser light and the greater light's a 24-hour period, yamim, okay? It's not a collection of the greater light and totally neglect or ignore the lesser light. It makes no sense. And pray that your flight does not take place in winter. Okay, so see, I don't see where all that happened during the placement of the building of the Dome of the Rock. So this, I think, is talking about something different, even though that is an abomination. Okay, so listen to this now. So this is the first thing that happens here, the tribulation or the distress, okay? For in those Yamim there will be distress, such as has not been from the beginning of creation. So it's going to be unlike anything that's ever happened. It's going to be the worst case scenario. Okay, the world has never seen anything like it. So that hasn't happened yet. And has not been seen from the beginning of creation, which Elohim created until this time, nor ever shall be. So it's going to be the worst event, the worst things going on that's ever happened or ever will happen. It's going to be a horrible situation. Okay. So everybody say, yeah, we're already in the end times, have already happened. Well, the end times began when Yahushua came, and he was, he lived and he walked on the earth, and then he was staked. He was executed on the Romans' execution stake, and he was placed in the tomb for 3 days and 3 nights. He rose in the Leia, or the evening of the 4th Yom. And he stayed with us for 40 days, which included nights. He didn't stay during the 12 hour of daylight and then go to a place called heaven for the 12 hours a night and then come back down for the 12 hours of daylight and then go back to heaven for the 12 hours a night. That's ridiculous. It was a 24-hour periods, 40 of them. And as such, had never been from the beginning of creation, which Elohim created until this time, nor ever shall be. And then he resurrected. He stayed with us for 40 days, 40 Yamim, and then he ascended. Okay. And if the master had not shortened those Yamim, no flesh would be delivered. But because of the chosen ones whom he chose, he shortens the Yamim. So this kind of debunks the rapture theory here. Okay. Because if he had not shortened those days, no flesh would be delivered. But because of the chosen ones which he chose, he shortens the days. Means we are going to remain here. Ain't nobody going to be delivered, raptured away to avoid the tribulation years. Right? So the tribulation years, or the distress, is the first thing that happens. Okay. We haven't seen anything quite that dramatic that this is speaking of. So we know we haven't missed the boat as far as the tribulations go. The end times started, and after he died, resurrected, and ascended, the next 2,000 years was the end times, because Peter proclaimed that. And when he quoted Joel 2, he proclaimed it in Acts 2 that the end times had begun at that particular point. Then for 2,000 years, then, as the end times to Yahuah, those are the last 2 days of his creation, the last 2 millenniums, besides the extra bonus round of the 1,000 years of peace, the 7th millennium, is the end times to him, to Yahuah. But at the very end of those final 2,000 years, those end times, comes the tribulation years, or the distress, or the great distress, if you will. And that's the last 3.5 years of those end times, those 2,000 years. Okay. So we know there's no rapture. 20 rebukes that. It just debunks it. If his people, his chosen, his elect, his election was raptured away, then there would be no need for him to have to shorten the days. But for the sake of his election, he shortens those days. That means his election's still here, being affected by the tribulation, by the distress. It's pretty clear. And if anyone then says to you, look, here is the Mashiach, or look there, do not believe it. And this is going to happen definitely during the tribulation years, during this great distress, which we're not in yet. For false Mashiachs and false prophets shall arise and show signs and wonders to lead astray, if possible, even the chosen ones. All right. And you take heed. See, I have forewarned you of it all. Okay. So here's Yeshua saying, look, wake up. I've forewarned you of all this. Make sure you know it when it's coming. You need to know it. You need to know when he's coming. Scripture's clear. Now 24 gets very interesting and leads us into this evening's study. But in those Yamam, after that distress, the sun shall be darkened and the moon shall not give its light. Okay, so this after that distress, this is immediately after. Okay, and we'll see that, but it's immediately after. It becomes the sun will be dark in total darkness, and the moon shall not give its light, and the stars of heaven shall fall, and the powers and the Shemayim shall be shaken. So there you go. What's this talking about? Well, it's the day of Yahuah. It's the day of Yahuah. All right. So now we're going from the tribulation, after the tribulation, after the distress, immediately after, comes the day of Yahuah. Right there it says it. Immediately after the distress, the sun shall be darkened, the moon shall not give its light, and the stars of heaven shall fall, and the powers of the Shemayim shall be shaken. That's the day of Yahuah, man. That's the day of total darkness. And all of a sudden, the Yamam is 24 hours of total darkness. Ain't no light at all in it, not even a lesser light. The great light and the lesser light, the two great lights are gone. Day of Yahuah. They burned out. Lights out. Now, this is the day that no man will work. So, as we're going to say, when Yahuah starts to talk about the day that no man will work, that we must work during the Yom, because when darkness comes, no man will be able to work. It's speaking of the day of Yahuah. We can work during the Yom, during the Leah, and in the Yom, 24-hour period during the greater light or the lesser light. Don't matter. We can work a 24-hour period if we want to. People have always done that. There's no time where people's only work during the day and then, here comes Leah. Go run into the house before we melt. Yeah, they work all through the night. Second shift, third shift, fight wars at night. Yahushua did a lot of work during the night. Matter of fact, he resurrected himself during the night. You want to say so. From the Leah, I call it, it's got daylight in it. Just a lesser light. That's all it is. So the total darkness, or the day that no man can work or will work, is the day of Yahuah. That's the only day that has total darkness in it. And then they shall see the son of Adam coming in the clouds with much power and esteem. Bam. See there? There's the return of the king. So it's after the day of Yahuah. No wonder if you think about it, if the suns went out, the moon isn't giving us light, the stars have fallen, have gone out, and we're in the day, a total darkness, the day of Yahuah. Could we see a lightning strike from east to west across the sky? Everybody, you better. I think even on the other side of the planet, they'd be able to see it. I mean, it could go from the end of the universe all the way to the other end of the universe, as far as we know. All we know is it's a sign of his coming. We don't know how long it is, but we know everybody can see it. And in total darkness, that's believable that everybody could see that. So the second coming is after the day. So we have the days of distress. We have the day of Yahuah, and now all of a sudden here comes the second coming of the King of Kings. Return of the King, man. In total darkness. And then they shall see the son of Adam coming in the clouds with much power and esteem. How? If it's total darkness. Oh, he must be lighting it up. Just like he did on day one. Then it says, and then he shall send his messengers and assemble his chosen ones from the four winds. Here come the reapers. The Malachim are coming to collect his bride. This is the first resurrection now. So the fourth thing that happens here is the first resurrection. And then he shall send his messengers, Malachim, angels, whatever you want to call them, reapers, and assemble his chosen ones from the four winds. From the farthest part of the earth to the farthest part of the heaven. And learn this parable from the fig tree. Okay, so what's going on here? Okay, there's the first resurrection. So if there's for the four winds, of obviously it's north, east, west, and south, the four directions, right? And from the farthest parts of the Eretz in all directions to the farthest part of the heaven of the Shemayim. Oh, wait a minute now. How in the world can his chosen ones be in the farthest parts of the heaven? How can that be? Aren't we retained here on the earth? Aren't we restricted? Nobody's up there in the heaven. How is that? Is there a place called heaven? Are you going to go get people out of there and bring them down here? Is that what that means? I don't think so. But I know that we have lost people up in space. The space shuttle blue pieces, so forth and so on. People have been lost up in space. So maybe he's talking about collecting them. Maybe this is prophecy that we would be entering into the Shemayim. Man would advance to that heights, and he would lose people in the Shemayim, such as the space shuttle exploding, the rockets or airplanes or whatever, right? So don't you wonder wow, how's he gonna resurrect them, man? They were blown to smithereens. Oh, here it says he's going to collect them from the farthest parts of the Eretz to the farthest part of the heaven. Yeah. Interesting, isn't it? And learn this parable from the fig tree. When its branches has already become. So when he says, and learn this parable from the fig tree. This is Yahusha. So when he says, learn this parable from the fig tree, okay, to who he's talking to and everybody else, if you will, is he commanding us to know when his second coming is? Yeah. Why is he saying this? Right after he explains the tribulation, the distress, right after he explains the day of Yahuah, right after he explains his second coming, right after he explains the first resurrection, he starts talking about a parable. He wants them to learn it, commands them to learn it. Why? Because it has something to do with these prophecies he just told? It has to if it's in context. Did he do about face and start talking about a different subject? Or did he stay on the same subject in context? Well, he stayed on the same subject. So this parable has something to do with the tribulation, the day of Yahuah, the second coming of the king, and the first resurrection. It has to. It's in context of that conversation. So when its branch has already become tender and puts forth leaves, you know that the summer is near. Okay, so common sense, he's saying. It's common sense. When he's coming back, it's common sense. That's what he's saying. This is all common sense. Use some common sense here, folks. So you also, when you see these taking place, the things he just described, know that it is near, at the door. Truly I say to you, this generation shall by no means pass away till all this takes place. What generation? The final generation that will be going through the distress, the day of Yahuah, the second coming, and the first resurrection. What he was just talking about. The heaven and the earth shall pass away. Hey, you're going to burn it up. But my words shall by no means pass away. What's that mean? That means the scriptures of truth is going to be in the millennium reign and probably on into eternity. It's going to survive the tribulation, the day of Yahuah, the second coming, the first resurrection. It's going to survive it. So the Torah or the Tanakh and the Natsarim writings will survive through all of that. It's not going to be burned up and passed away and gone. The Torah remains now and forever. That's what this is telling us. But concerning that Yom and the hour, no one knows, not even the messengers in heaven, nor the Son, but only the Father. What's that mean? Well, but concerning that Yom and the hour, no one knows, is an idiom, Hebraic idiom, referring to the Day of Trumpets. It's a nickname for the Day of Trumpets. I don't have time to go into that, but it does. And so what he's saying here is he's coming back on the Day of Trumpets in some particular year. What time? We don't know. You know, the year, we don't know. But he's coming back during the Day of Trumpets, which is the Yom and the hour no one knows is relating to the Day of Trumpets. But I can say this, and as we get in deeper into this, I think you all will agree that I think he's going to come during the Leah, during the night watch, one of the night watches, is what I think he's going to do. So, yeah, he ain't going to wait till the greater light comes. He's coming to turn the lesser light during the Day of Trumpets. That's my guess. And you'll see as we go through this why I think that. Okay, so I know that's a whole lot to absorb, but if you can accept it, he's commanding us to know when he's coming back. It's untruth, it's misinformation when the circus teaches us that no one knows the day or the hour that Yahuwah is coming back, because Yahuwah commands us to know. He wants us to know. This is why he gave us all this information, to know that. So you can go ahead and live your life and continue to agree with the circus and go parrot their false doctrine and tell everybody, nobody knows the day or the hour Yahushua's coming back. If you want to. But with the way I read it, he's commanded us to know when his second coming is, so that we are ready. He commands us to watch, know when the fig tree. Common sense. Know when I'm coming back is what he's saying. This is why he's given us all this information so we can figure it out. Okay. Truly I say to you, this generation will by no means pass away till all this takes place. What generation? The last generation. Okay. When the fig tree, which is Yisrael, budded, okay, was rebirthed, went through the rebirth process, became alive, back on the map, was 1948. Okay, so we know that. It was not even a nation for like 2,000 years. And then all of a sudden it appears back on the map, blossoms again. Now it's there. So when did all that happen? Oh, 1948. So everybody that was born on 1948 and after, okay, is in the last generation. The 1948 people are special because they were born on the same year Israel was reborn. And so that is the last generation. Everybody that was born in 1948, you are the last generation that this is speaking of. And we get from, in Psalms, we learn that a generation to Yahuwah is 70 years, but for strength, it's 80 years due to strength. So we use the outside number 80, we have to. We're given two numbers for the same equation. We have to use the outside number. You have to, the greater number. And so 80 on to 1948 is 2028. Perhaps the day of trumpets, 2028, was the return of the king. And I say perhaps because the calendar is screwed up. So it could be anywhere from 2026 to 2032, let's just say. But the mathematics is there. We are giving no other figures, no other numbers to play with and to try to figure it out. That's it. There's nothing else. It has to comply. Okay, so we see now that we're commanded to know when his second coming is in the day of Yahuwah, and we're to watch. Okay, so this generation shall by no means pass away till all this takes place. So the last generation, everybody born in 1948, some of those people have to be alive at the second coming of Yahushua. They have to be alive during the tribulation. They have to be alive during the day of Yahuwah. They have to be alive during the first resurrection. They have to be. He's saying that generation will not pass away off the face of this earth. They have to. Some of them have to be here during these 4 events that happens during the 3.5 last years allocated to mankind of the 6,000 years, given to mankind to rule over himself. Okay. But concerning that yom and the hour, no one knows, but only the Father. Take heed, watch, and pray. Okay, here we go. This is a command. Take heed, watch, and pray, for you do not know when the time is. As a man going abroad, having left his house and given authority to his servants and to each his work, and commanded the doorkeeper to watch. There you go. Watch, therefore. So he said, and he's telling us to watch. If he didn't want us to know when he was coming, would he tell us to watch? Why would we have to watch? We could just go about our life and not worry about it. But for some reason, Yahushua wanting us to watch for him. Who? This last generation. That's who. He wants us to watch. If you're in the last generation and you understand the prophecy, the secret prophecy, then you are to watch. And he's commanding you to watch. So say, I'm not going to watch because no man knows the day or the hour. Not understand Hebrew idioms. Then you're disobeying a command given to you, given to all of us. Those who understand, that is. Okay. So watch. And then we go into 35. It says, watch therefore, for you do not know when the master of the house is coming. Okay. So we don't know the precise hour and the precise year concerning the yom and the hour, the day and the hour. That could be meaning that nobody has it pinpointed down to the last second. So during the Festival of Trumpets, during the new moon, they had lookers out, observers, 3 sets of 2, watching for when the new moon appeared. So then they would have to go back and get questioned by the Sanhedrin in order to prove that they actually saw the new moon, and then they could blow the trumpet and alert everybody to the day of trumpets have begun. But they weren't allowed to prepare for it beforehand. So they had to wait for the announcement of it before they could even start obeying that festival of the Day of Trumpets. And so nobody knew the day or the hour because it could happen over a 3-day period. And no one knew the hour that the Sanhedrin or the priest was going to blow that trumpet to tell everybody, alert everybody that the Day of Trumpets had begun. That's why they called it the day no man knows the day or the hour. That's why it was nicknamed that. Matter of fact, back then, tradition says that the Hebrew would greet each other that way during that time period. They walk by, say, no one knows the day or the hour. So, listen to this part now. This 35 and 36 here confirms to us that they're the 4 night watches, okay, during Yahushua's time. So listen to this carefully. Watch therefore, for you do not know when the master of the house is coming. In the evening, which would be the first watch, as it turned even during twilight, right? 6 to 9. You do not know when the master of the house is coming. In the evening from 6 to 9, or at midnight, there's the second watch from 9 to midnight, 9 to 12, or at the crowing of the rooster, which would be in the 4-hour watches, it would be between 12 and 3, midnight to 3, or in the morning, which would be the 4th watch, okay, which would be, from 3 to 6. So there's our 4 watches. There's our 4 Leah watches, lesser light, right there. Those are the 4. In the evening, midnight, or at the crowing of the rooster, or in the morning, the dawn. When it dawns, the night watches are over. Everybody wakes up and goes about their business. Least coming suddenly, he should find you sleeping. And what I say to you, I say to all, watch. Watch. At what? During the night. He just told us the 4 watches of the night. Why? Because he's using the Roman watches, the 4 Roman watches. This is Yahuah. Then he just told us, watch during all 4 phases, be watching during the night. Okay? So, because least coming suddenly, he should find you sleeping during the night, right? When we all sleep. And what I say to you, I say to all, watch. So is this a hint? Is he giving us a hint that he's coming during the night watch, one of the night watches? It seems to be. It seems to be that he's given us a hint that he will be back during one of the night watches, either from 6 to 9, or from 9 to midnight, or from midnight to 3, or from 3 to 6. Because he mentions all 4 in these 2 verses. See that? So Yahushua himself, I think, is giving us a hint or suggesting that he'll be back during the Leah, the lesser light part of the Yom. He was resurrected during the lesser light part of the Yom, so he may be returning during the lesser light of the Yom. See that? It's very interesting. So I think that Mark 13 here, 35 and 36, especially 35, where he gives us the 4 night watches, is very clear that Yahuah is giving us a hint or suggesting that he will return during the night watches, one of the night watches. I don't know. He was resurrected in the Leah during the night watch, either the 1st or the 4th. We read that in John 20, verse 1, when we first started. So it becomes, to me, it becomes very important that we should know what the night watches are. And here in Mark 13, 35 here, it names them all. It names all 4. And the Roman 4 watches, which means Yahushua accepted them and he used them to describe when he's coming back. Can we take these verses out of context and say they mean he's talking about something else? No. He's all the way back in this chapter 13, especially starting at 19 to 36, he has not changed the conversation or the topic of the conversation. He's still on point. He's elaborating on this exact topic of the end of the tribulation year, the last 3.5 years, man. Tribulation, day of Yahuah, second coming of the King, the first resurrection, and he suggests when he's coming, when the fig tree blossoms, and that generation will not disappear off the face of the earth. He'll be back. The last generation will not perish. They'll see his return. They'll see the day of Yahuah. They'll see the tribulation. They'll see the first resurrection. And then he suggests in 35 and 36 that he's going to be coming during the night watch, during the lesser light. It's just amazing, man. It's totally amazing. Okay, so now let's go over here. Take a look at Matthew. A little bit of 24 and 20, a little bit of 25 here. Matthew 24 and 25. Okay, so let's look up here. We'll start at verse 11. Matthew 24, verse 11, y'all. Okay, so it says, and many false prophets shall rise up and lead many astray. So we're going to get some little bit of repetition here, but we're also going to learn some new stuff. So hang in there. This gets really interesting here. And because of the increase in lawlessness, the love of many shall become cold. Wow. Increase in lawlessness makes the love of many become cold because they've abolished the Torah. They've thrown out the Torah, which teaches us how to love Yahuah and others, so they threw out love instructions. They no longer possess the instructions that teaches us how to love. They tossed it into the iniquity bin of history. They have abolished it. The Torah has been thrown out. It's irrelevant. It's only for the Jews, right? And so their love grows cold without the instructions of how to love. Wow. But he who shall have endured to the end shall be delivered. Endured what? Endured with the teachings of the Torah on how to love. So those who love others and love Yahuah to the end, who endure, shall be delivered. So how do they endure and love? By obeying his commands. If you love me, obey my commands. Right? Those who say they know me, but do not obey, are liars, and there's no truth in them. Okay, so we have to endure and love. Okay, to the end. Love Yahuah and love others. By obeying the 10 Debarim, the 10 Commandments, okay, which is the everlasting covenant, by simply obeying them, by default, we love Yahuah and we love others, just simply by obeying them. And as we progress and become perfect in love with Mashiach, we learn to love others as we love ourselves. And that's another subject, but very important subject. And this Besorah of the rain shall be proclaimed in all the world as a witness to all the nations, and then the end shall come again. To all the nations, not all the people in every nation. It only has to fall into the nations, the hands of the different nations. And that prophecy is fulfilled, which triggers the return of the king. Tribulation years, day of Yahuah, return of the king, and the first resurrection. It says nations. It doesn't say every single person on the planet needs to know what the Besorah of Yahuah is. It just needs to go to the nations. Fall in that nation. That's all it says. So when you see the abomination that lays waste spoken of by Daniel the prophet, so this is Daniel's abomination that lays waste. It's not really the abomination of desolation, but it's the abomination that lays waste. Kind of the same thing, but words matter, phrases matter, context matters from what we're using the words in too, you know. And spoken of by Daniel the prophet, set up in the set apart place, which is the Temple Mount. He who reads, let him understand. Then let those who are in Yehudah flee to the mountains. Let him who is on the housetop not come down to take whatever out of his house. And let him who is in the field not turn back to get his garments. And woe to those who are pregnant and to those who are nursing children in those Yamam. So I don't think we've seen that yet. Not even during the building of the rock, the Dome of the Rock, did this happen. So it can't be the abomination that lays waste spoken of Daniel, but it is an abomination of desolation, speaking of the Dome of the Rock. And pray that your flight does not take place in winter or on the Shabbat, for then there shall be great distress. Isn't that funny where he's commanded us to pray that this flight does not take place in winter or on Yom Shabbat? Have you prayed that? Have you prayed that your flight doesn't take place during the winter or on the Shabbat? I have. Have you? Or you're commanded to do so. For then there shall be great distress, such as has not been since the beginning of the world until this time, nor ever shall be. It's going to be dramatic, horrible, unbelievable, mind-blowing. People will die. They will faint of fear. And if those Yamam were not shortened, no flesh would be delivered. But for the sake of the chosen ones, those Yamam shall be shortened. There would be no need to shorten the days if the election wasn't still on the earth. So we're going to be here. This totally debunks rapture. Rapture is falsehood. It's a false doctrine created by demons. Don't buy into it. Don't buy rapture insurance from the circus. Ain't gonna do you no good. Yeah, they're selling it. They'll sell you rapture insurance if you want it. But I would suggest not to waste your money. But that's only a suggestion. If anyone then says to you, look, here is the Mashiach, or there he is, do not believe. Okay, so is this talking about any day, like today or tomorrow? No. This is still in context, speaking of the great distress. See here, for then there shall be a great distress. And now they're calling it the great distress here in Matthew, not just the distress, but the great distress. It's the same thing. There's not going to be two of them. It's the same thing. It's just they call it different things. They call it Jacob's distress. They call it the great distress or just distress. The tribulation. It's all the same event. Okay. All right. So this thing about, look, here's the Mashiach, and or there he is. People are going to be running around during this great tribulation, apparently, and they're going to be freaking out, scared to death. They're going to be running around saying, hey, the Mashiach came back. He's over there. Somebody saw him over there. They committed a miracle. And they're going to say he's everywhere, but yet he has not come yet. Because remember, tribulation years, this great distress, and then the day of Yahuah, and then the second coming, and then the first resurrection. So we know the sequence now. So when they start screaming that, we're going to say, wait a minute, the day of Yahuah hasn't come yet. Saying it can't be the Mashiach. They ain't seen the Mashiach because he comes after the distress, immediately after. Watch, we'll get into it. For false Mashiachs and false prophets shall arise, and they shall show great signs and wonders, so as to lead astray, if possible, even the chosen ones. So there's going to be some crazy stuff going on. There's going to be deception. There's going to be magic. There's going to be delusions. There's going to be things going on, okay, which is going to make people think the Mashiach is here and doing it. But we know, because we're the Natsarim, that the Mashiach doesn't come until after the day of Yahuah. So it can't be him. It's got to be a false Mashiach or false prophet out there doing it. All right? But it's going to be such a great delusion, okay, that it could fool even the chosen ones. That means if we don't understand this very important Besorah, this message that Yahushua's given us tonight, that we could fall prey to the false messiahs and the false prophets, because it's going to be a great delusion, a great display of power, to where we're going to think, oh, he must be the Messiah, because only the Messiah can do that. But Messiah is not coming during the tribulation years. The tribulation years is the wrath of Hashatan. Yahushua doesn't come then. But he does cut the days short for the sake of his bride, his election, Israel, that's still here, suffering through these tribulation years and enduring in love. We're supposed to love our enemy. We got to love these people that are harming us during the tribulation years. We have to endure in love. We don't want our love to grow cold, because that means Yahuwah's love for us is growing cold. Yahuwah is love. If our love, if he's love, we're love. If our love grows cold, we're losing Yahuwah, man. He's fading away from us. So Natsarim, that becomes extremely important for us. We have to endure in love. Even through all this, we have to love them. Powerful stuff, man. Yahuwah is awesome. Okay. So there you go. I have forewarned you. So he's saying, look, I forewarned you. I've told you this. I told you to watch. I told you to understand when I'm coming. I've told you what's leading up to my second coming. Okay? And watch. See, I have forewarned you. So he's saying, it's not my fault if you all get caught up in this and you get fooled and you're led astray by the false Mashiachs and false prophets, because I forewarned you to stay in love with Yahushua. Not follow after these false prophets, because you know the sequence of his second coming, man. He ain't coming during the tribulation years. He's going to cut them short. And then the day of Yahuah, and then his second coming, and then the first resurrection. And then the white throne judgment, and then the millennium reign, and then eternity. See, I forewarned you. So if they say to you, speaking of the false messiahs and the false prophets, during the tribulation years, now, not right now, we're not in the tribulation years. Ain't nothing happening right now that's exceeded everything else that's ever happened on this planet during time of creation to now and never will be again. I haven't seen that. So we're not in the tribulation years. We're just the years preceding the tribulation years. Okay, we're just close. Let's put it that way. We ain't there yet. Look, he is in the desert. Do not go out. Look, he is in the inner rooms. Do not believe. So this during the tribulations, these people are going to be doing this, and they're going to be doing signs and wonders. People will call them miracles. They're going to be blown away by these happenings, and they're going to believe that the Mashiach is on this earth, and they're going to be doing these signs and wonders. People are going to say, hey, that's got to be the Messiah. He healed somebody or whatever the sign or wonder is. He chased out a demon. My friend, that's got to be him. Well, the Natsarim, no, it can't be, because he ain't coming till he cuts the tribulation days short. He isn't coming during the tribulation years. So this all applies to the tribulation years, people, and we're not in them yet. So you can't take this and throw this on somebody and say, look, he's a false Messiah because he's saying this or he's doing that. You're taking that out of context and pinning it on somebody. That makes you a malicious witness. And that's a violation, a direct violation of the 9th commandment. You got to understand that. You'll be in big trouble if you do that. Look, he is in the inner rooms, and I believe, for the light. Now, here's the sign of his coming. So this is after he cuts the day short of the tribulation years, the wrath of Hashatan short. For as the lightning comes from the east and shines to the west, so also shall the coming of the Son of Adam be. Okay. So now we just read about the false prophets, the false messiahs, the signs and the wonders, the people claiming, oh, that's him because he did this, or he's over there because he did that. This is the tribulation years. Okay, now all of a sudden we're getting the sign, okay, of the coming of the Son of Adam will be a great lightning flash from far east to the far west. Probably will expand greatly out into the universe. Okay. Remember, after the tribulation years comes the day of Yahuah, which is total darkness, complete darkness. And then the sign of the Messiah will be seen by all because it's going to be pitch dark black with no light. And so this lightning is going to light up the universe, man, through all that total darkness. Everybody's going to be able to see it. For wherever the dead body is, there the eagles shall be gathered together. And immediately, I say, here it is. And immediately, that means no time at all is involved here, not even a second. Immediately means immediately. And immediately after the distress of those Yamam, the sun shall be darkened, and the moon shall not give its light, and the stars shall fall from the heaven, and the powers of the Shemayim shall be shaken. That's the day of Yahuah. It comes immediately after the tribulation years or the great distress. And that day is a day of total darkness. So here we go now. Immediately after the tribulation or the great distress comes the day of Yahuah. Lights out. When you see that happen, Natsarim, lights go out, okay, and we're in total darkness, you will know that the tribulation years have ended. The wrath of Hashatan is gone. The days have been shortened by Yahuah for the sake of his election. We'll be here. We'll see the lights turned out, okay, and that starts the day of Yahuah. That's what us Natsarim will understand at that particular point. Okay? All right. Understand that the powers of the Shemayim shall be shaken. And then the sign of the Son of Adam shall appear in the heaven. That's that lightning that comes from the east and west. See, so the light's out, and then the sign. And so that lightning expands the universe more than likely will be seen from all areas of the world because it's going to be so pitch dark that lightning is going to be seen no matter where you're at on this earth. It's going to light up the universe, man. And that's going to be the sign, Natsarim, that our master is coming. So get ready. When that happens, you better be looking up. Yeah, he's coming. And then the sign of the Son of Adam shall appear in the heaven, and then all the tribes of the Eretz shall mourn, and they shall see the Son of Adam coming on the clouds of the heaven with power and much esteem. So here we go. The third step here is the sign of his coming, and then the return of the King of Kings shall come. It will seem, man. Wow. So then all the tribes of the Eretz shall mourn. Why? They know they done screwed up. Oh, no, he's real. What have I done? They're going to be mourning, all right. Except for the real evil ones. You know, they're going to be hating this the sight of his second coming, you know. But are they even going to be here? I don't know. A possibility they might not be. Yeah, because the tars are going to, and the weeds are going to be removed, right? Which means they're probably going to fry. That total darkness is part of a supernova, which puts the lights out, you know, and then explodes. I mean, who knows, man? I mean, it just sounds like it's just going to be something. Just, I guess, if you don't have the real condition in you, it probably just drop dead from the fear of what's getting ready to happen here. You know, it's not going to be something that we can stand there and look at like a fireworks. You know, it's not going to be that kind of a show. It'll be the grand finale, but it's not going to be one that we're going to sit there and act like we're being entertained. Okay. The Son of Adam coming in the clouds of heaven with power and much esteem, and he shall send his messengers with a great sound of a trumpet. So this must be he's coming on the day of trumpets, man. Right? Yeah. And they shall gather together his chosen ones from the four winds. That's from every direction, north, east, west, and south. That's what that means, from all directions. From one end of the Shemayim to the other. So what's that? Well, that's describing the first resurrection. Those who have fallen asleep in Mashiach, and those who remain alive at his second coming. The dead will be raised first, given immortality. Then those who remain at the time of his second coming will be also changed and given an immortal body. And their flesh will be raised and given immortality. Those who are fallen asleep first. Then those who remain will get their immortal bodies and be changed. And then we will fly away up into the clouds with the Master as he descends upon the Mount of Olives. We'll be caught with him in the clouds as he descends down upon the Mount of Olives. So we'll come down with him and his army of messengers. And we'll be gathered from one end of the Shemayim to the other. It don't matter where you're at. Okay, if you're his, he's going to take you. And learn this parable from the fig tree. So that's probably where everybody gets, they get mistaken on that rapture thing. They think you're going to fly away to heaven if you're the real circus, Oh, we're the true circus. Rest of you circuses, you're going to stay down here with the sinners. You guys weren't doing right like we were. There ain't no true circus going to no rapture. All them circuses are in the same boat. They fight and they fuss and they argue over who's the true circus, who's the true church that's going to be raptured. That's silliness. That's wishful thinking at best. It's really a doctrine of demons is what it really is. Okay. And learn this parable from the fig tree. When its branch has already become tender and puts forth leaves, you know that the summer is near. This is Yisrael, born in 1948, reborn 1948. So you also, when you see all these, know that he is near at the door. He's commanding you. You also, when you see all these things that he just talked about, you know that he is near at the doors. What's that mean? He wants you to know when he's coming back, when he's at the door. He wants you to know. That's what that means. He's not saying, I don't want you to know when I'm coming back. I'm going to surprise you. I'm going to creep up down behind you and say, boo, and let you know I'm back. That ain't what he's saying. That ain't what he's saying at all. He says, see you also, when you see all these things, know that he is near at the doors. He wants you to know. Okay. Truly I say to you, this generation shall by no means pass away until all this takes place. The heaven and the earth shall pass away, but my word shall by no means pass away. That means the last generation leading up to the tribulation years, the day of Yahuah, his second coming, the first resurrection will be on the earth when all that happens. Those who were born in 1948. And his word shall by no means pass away. That means everybody that's teaching you or ever taught you that the Torah is irrelevant and is abolished should get on their knees and actually on their face and belly and beg for forgiveness for misleading people, leading them astray by telling them that. That's a shame. And you ought to be ashamed of yourself if you ever taught people that. If you've repented, you're good to go. If you haven't, you should be ashamed. But concerning that Yom and the hour, no one knows. So the Yom is a 24-hour period. So the hour of that 24-hour period, nobody really knows. Not even the messengers of the Shemayim, the day, the Yom and the hour, no one knows, is an idiom referring to the day of trumpets, the festival of trumpets. Not even the angels, the messengers of the Shemayim, but my Father only. Of course, Yahuah knows. He knows everything. He's omnipotent. He's omnipotent, omnipotent, and omniscient. He knows all. Of course, he knows. He knows the exact second. And as the Yamim of Noah, so also shall be the coming of the son of Adam be. So we didn't hear that before. So the day of Noah, what was happening during the day of Noah? Well, there was corruption. There was sin. The reason we die earlier in Noah's generation did is because of sin. The more bigger sinners we become, the lesser we live. Our lifespan gets shortened. So that's why we're only living 70 to 80 years, But the coming of the son of Adam be. So what in the world? So corruption, perverseness. They were just going nuts. Is what they were doing, and so they were doing anything they wanted to do, and they were calling everything that was bad and evil. They were calling it good, and so that's kind of what's happening here today too. And we don't got to get into that. You all know what's going on in our lifetime here. Okay. And so the day Yamam of Noach, I think is here. I think we're living that, and I think we all can see that with all this weird things that are going on. All the tampering with the DNA, people's DNA, is also what was happening during the days of Noah too. And by the demons, the demons were playing with Yahuah's creation along with man. So also shall come another son of Adam be. For as they were in the days before the flood, eating and drinking and marrying and giving in marriage until the Yom that Noah entered into the ark. And they did not know until the flood came and took them away. So also shall the coming of the son of Adam be. So these people that do not know Yahuah, okay, they're going to be caught with their pants down. They're going to be caught off guard. They're going to be caught sleeping. They're going to be caught unrepentful. They're going to be sinners. They're going to be criminals. They're going to be partaking in the lust and the pleasures of the earth, that man strives for, the flesh loves. And they're not even going to be thinking about Yahushua because they don't even know him. They don't know Yahuah. They don't know nothing about him. They don't even know that a tribulation period's coming. Some of them have heard it, but they don't understand it, nor the sequence involved. And so, yeah, they're going to be caught without knowledge, and they're going to be taken away. And most of them will probably drop dead from fright. fear when they start seeing all these things happen. If not, they'll be fried when the earth and the Shemayim burns. So, they're going to just be acting like nothing's wrong. And they're going to be thinking, yeah, man, he's not coming for thousands of years yet. Man's going to find his own everlasting life, or we're going to be able to create robots to replace our body, and we'll just take and program our minds and our memories into download it into the robots, computer chips and board and everything. And then we'll be who we'll be ourselves, but we'll have a better body. We'll have a robot body that doesn't break down. They're going to be thinking all this. They're going to be thinking they're close to the door of eternity, of being immortal, and they're just going to be living their life, doing like they always did, with no thought, or reason, or belief in Yahuah at all. They won't even know him. They're just going to conduct business as usual. That's what that's talking about. That's what the people were doing when Noah was building the ship. They just ignoring it, man. It's like they just ignoring me talking here, or you other Natsarim talking. They don't care because they have no belief. Okay, then 2 shall be in the field, and 1 is taken, and the 1 is left. I shall be grinding at the mill, 1 is taken and 1 is left. Watch therefore, for you do not know what hour your master is coming. So, here we go with the watch again. Watch therefore, for you do not know what hour your master is coming. So is that a command? You better believe it. Hi, Phil. Glad you're here. Eric, glad you're here, bro. Phil, glad you're here, man. Branch of the Vine, glad you're here. Isaiah Diaz, glad you're here, bro. Yeah, so see that? The weeds and in the wheat, okay? And so here we understand that the gathering of the wheat will be the second Exodus. Okay. All right. So now, and the reapers will get rid of those who remain. Or we could look at it and say the ones who remain will be removed by the reapers, if we want to say that, and bundled up for the fire. And the Natsarim, or the wheat, will already have inherited their immortal bodies. And they have immortality. And they won't be burnt along with the tars. Okay, so we could look at it that way too. Okay, way you want to look at it. So here we go. This is not a salvation issue, so I'm open to either way, really. I know there's people that believe both ways. And know this, that if the master of the house had known what hour the thief would come, he would have watched and not allowed his house to be broken into. Because of this, be ready too, for the Son of Adam is coming in an hour when you do not expect him. Okay, so nobody's going to expect him except for the Natsarim. The ones that understand what's going on, they'll expect him because he commands them to watch, to understand it and the parable of the sequence, and to watch. So they'll know, but the rest of people will not know. They won't have a clue, man. They're going to just be doing what they've always done, living their life. See that? He goes on to explain it. It says, who then is a trustworthy and wise servant whom his master set over his household to give them food in season? Blessed is that servant whom his master, having come, shall find so doing. Truly I say to you that he shall set him over all his possessions. But even that evil servant says in his heart, but if that evil servant says in his heart, my master's delaying his coming. So even if you understand, and then you say, yeah, he's delaying, he's not coming, man. I can sneak back down here and partake in the lust and pleasures of the world. You're in big trouble. But even if that evil servant says in his heart, my master's delaying his coming, begins to beat his fellow servants and to eat and drink with the drunkards, the master of that servant shall come on a yom when he does not expect it, and at an hour he does not know, and shall cut him in two and appoint him his portion with the hypocrites. There shall be weeping and gnashing of the teeth, folks. Oh, that's mind-blowing right there. So even if you're a Natsarim and you start saying, he's not coming. He's supposed to come by now. He ain't here. I'm just going to go down here and go wild, do some partying, partake in some dope, some alcohol and some women or something, you know. He's going to cut you in two. Says he's going to cut him in two and appoint him his portion with the hypocrites. You're a hypocrite then if you do that. And there should be a weeping and gnashing of the teeth when you are thrown into the lake of fire, the second death. All right, so now that brings us to 25. Let's look at it. We're not going to get into the whole chapter, but I just want to read the first 12, 13 verses here because it relates heavily to this study. Then the reign of the Shemayim shall be compared to 10 maidens who took their lamps and went out to meet the bridegroom. And 5 of them were wise and 5 were foolish. Those who were foolish, having taken their lamps, took no oil with them. But the wise took oil in their jars with their lamps. Now, while the bridegroom took time, they all slumbered and slept. And at midnight, so here we go, midnight, which has to be the second watch. It's the second watch. Okay, could be the third, because the third starts at midnight and goes to 3 in the morning. So it could be either the second watch or the third watch. And at midnight, a cry was heard. See, the bridegroom is coming. Go out to meet him. So this tells me he's coming back during the night watch. Either the second or the third watch is what it seems to be applying. If you go by the Hebrew, it would be the second watch. Remember, the Hebrew only has 3 watches. But if you're going by the Romans, which Yahushua accepted, the Romans watches, he should be coming back at either at the end of the second watch or the beginning of the third watch, because the one ends at midnight, the other starts at midnight. Sounds logical to me. And at midnight, a cry was heard. See, the bridegroom is coming, going out to meet him. Is this a hint from Yahushua that he's coming during the second or the third watch, during the Leah? I think so. Yahushua comes at midnight and was resurrected possibly at midnight on the third day as well, or at the end of the second watch. It's a possibility. I mean, this could be a hint to us. You know, he returns, he was resurrected, all during the second, either the end of the second watch or the beginning of the third watch, or the second watch if you're going by the Hebrew. Very interesting, isn't it? Then all those maidens rose up. See, the bridegroom is coming to go out and meet him. Then all those maidens rose up and trimmed their lamps. And the foolish said to the wise, give us your oil, because our lamps are going out. But the wise answered, saying, no way, there would be not enough for us and you. Instead, go to those who sell and buy for yourself. Say and buy for yourself. Who's selling and buying? Well, the circus sells, the word. Buy for yourself. sell it and buy it, give them money, try to buy the Ruach HaKodesh, like that one guy did, that magician. I mean, what's it saying, man? I mean, that's weird. So instead, go to those who sell, which sells the oil, and buy it. So what's the oil? Well, the oil is the Ruach. Okay, it's the Ruach HaKodesh. Okay, it lamps your heart. And while they went to buy, the bridegroom came. So they actually went to try to buy the Ruach. So it sounds like, or pay somebody to save them, baptize them and save them. Who knows? And those who were ready went in with him to the wedding feast. The ones who had the Ruach HaKodesh went into the wedding feast. So that's kind of interesting. Is that implying that the wedding feast is prior to the millennium reign? The wedding feast of his bride, of the wheat, of Israel? He came back, and when he came back, he resurrected them, then the first resurrection, and then they go to the wedding feast together. Sounds like it. And those who were ready went in with him to the wedding feast, and the door was shut. And later on, the other maidens also came, saying, Master, Master, open up for us. But he answering said, Truly I say to you, I do not know you. Watch, therefore. Here's that command to watch again, Natsarim. You're commanded to watch. Be looking toward the eastern sky as you're watching, by the way. Because you do not know the yom nor the hour in which the son of Adam is coming. Adam is coming. There's that idiom for the day of trumpets again. I think he's giving us a hint. I'm coming on the day of trumpets during the night watch. I think this is what the secret message of Yahusha is in this parable. Night and day make one yom, folks. Watch therefore, because you do not know the yom, nor the hour in which the son of Adam is come. So we may not know the precise hour. We do not know the yom. The people are going to be looking for him to come in the greater light, when he's actually coming in the lesser light during one of the night watches, perhaps the second or the third. Is that what this is saying to us? Well, we know the idiom applies to the day of trumpets. This is amazing. So is he coming back on the day of trumpets, during the new moon, in the evening, during the night watch, during Leah, on the day of trumpets? Yeah, I think this is exactly what he's telling us. I think it's a secret prophecy to those who understand. Okay, so all right, so let's look at let's go over here and get a look at this here now. In Matthew 14:25, Matthew 14:25, it says, and in the fourth watch of the Leah, Yahuah went to them walking on the sea. And when the Talmudim saw him walking on the sea, they were troubled, saying, it is a phantom, and from fear they cried. So they were crying. They were scared to death, and they were crying, bawling their eyes out like little kids. Okay, so why did I bring this one up? Because it's extremely interesting. Okay, first of all, it says, and in the fourth watch of the Leah, which means they're going by the Roman watches, because there's only 3 in the Hebrew. This is more proof that Yahuah authorized the use of the Roman 4 watches. Okay, because he uses it here, fourth watch of the Leah, which would be between 3 in the morning and 6 a.m., 3 a.m. to 6 a.m., which has dawn in it. So what happened? Yahuah went to them walking on the sea at nighttime? Yes, during the lesser light. Does that mean he was working? You better believe it. You're reading about it, aren't you? And in the fourth watch of the Leah, just before dawn, basically, could this be the time he was resurrected or left the tomb? Could be. It could be applying to that. It happened. Remember, I said it had to be during the first watch or the fourth watch. So maybe this is cluing us in that he was resurrected in the fourth watch of the Leah, just before dawn. So he couldn't stay in there the entire Leah, because then scripture wouldn't be true, and it says he was only in there for 3 nights. Then if he stayed in there until daytime came, then that would have been 4 nights. So if during the fourth watch between 3 a.m. and 6 a.m., Yahushua went to them walking on the sea. Interesting, isn't it? He went to them when he came out of the tomb. Walking on the sea. And when the Talmud saw him walking on the sea, they were troubled, saying, "It is a phantom," and from fear they cried. So why didn't they know it was Yahushua? I mean, they knew Yahushua very well. They knew him as close as a brother or a father or a mother. They knew him. But yet they didn't recognize him, and they were crying their eyeballs out because they thought a ghost was coming to get them. Why? Well, for one basic reason. It was nighttime during the lesser light, and they couldn't see him very well. So they couldn't identify him. The same reason criminals come out at night, because they can't be seen easily. They can get away with stuff with their criminal activity. Very interesting, isn't it? Okay, so let's look at Luke 24:1 real quick. Luke 24:1. Luke 24:1 says, "And on the first yom of the week at early dawn, they came to the tomb bringing the spices which they had prepared, and they found the stone rolled away from the tomb." So after the Shabbat, just before the crack of dawn, they arrived at the tomb with spices. So no work is done during the Leah? What would this be? This was during the fourth watch as well. So before the dawn, before the day came, Yahushua was gone. The tomb was open when they got there. So he was resurrected that night, that Leah, during one of the watches, which I think probably may. I mean, I'm leaning more toward it being the fourth watch myself. I don't know about y'all. Okay. So very interesting. That tells us a whole lot about really the fourth watch during the night there. Very interesting. Yahushua was out walking on the seas during the darkness. During the lesser light at the first half of the Yom. That's when he was out walking on the sea. Okay. And we know he was because they didn't recognize him. And they were scared to death. They thought it was a ghost coming to get them. They were crying their eyes out like a little baby, right? Okay. Very good. Okay. So now let's get into some little bit of confirmation here on all this, and so we can find anything in the Tanakh to back all this up. So let's look at Isaiah 24 real quick, 6 to 7. "For a child shall be born to us, a son shall be given." Whoops, I'm on the wrong. I'm not on Isaiah 24. Okay, here we go. 1 through 6. See, Yahuah is making the Eretz empty and making it waste, and shall overturn its surface, and shall scatter abroad its inhabitants. And it shall be as with the people, so with the priest, as with the servant, so with his master, as with the female servant, so with her mistress, as with the buyer, so with the seller, as with the lender, so with the borrower, as with the creditor, so with the debtor. The Eretz is completely emptied and utterly plundered, for Yahuah has spoken this word. The Eretz shall mourn and wither, the world shall languish and wither, the haughty people of the Eretz shall languish. For the Eretz shall be defiled under its inhabitants, or has been defiled under its inhabitants, because they have transgressed the truth, changed the law, broken the everlasting covenant. Therefore a curse shall consume the Eretz, and those who dwell in it be punished. Therefore the inhabitants of the Eretz shall be burned, and few men shall be left. That's talking about the day of Yahuah. So day of Yahuah is a reality. It's not a dream. It's not a pipe dream. It's not a myth. It's a reality. This is going to happen during the day of Yahuah. Joel 2. Blow a ram's horn in Zion and sound an alarm in my set-apart mountain. Let all the inhabitants of the Eretz tremble, for the Yom of Yahuah is coming near, for it is near. A Yom of darkness and gloom, a Yom of clouds and thick darkness, like the morning cloud spread over the mountains. So here we see lights out, total darkness on the day of Yahuah. It comes immediately after the great distress, a day of darkness and gloom, thick darkness. Okay, like the morning cloud spread over the mountains, a people many and strong, the like of whom has never been seen, have never been, nor shall there ever be again after them, to the years of many generations. Speaking of the Malachim, that's going to go out and collect his people and bundle up the tars and prepare it for the fire. Some people call them the reapers. So this is also pointing to the day of Yahuah. Joel 2:38, or Joel 2:28 through 32 says, and after this it shall be that I pour out my Ruach on all flesh, and your sons and your daughters shall prophesy, and your old men dream dreams, your young men see visions. And also on the male servants and the female servants I shall pour out my Ruach in those days, those Yamim. And I shall have, see, when I say days, we don't get all excited about and say, oh, that's you're saying day, that doesn't include night. Well, in our vocabulary, when we say day or days, we know we're including day and night. Both 12-hour periods make up a day. There's no difference here. And a day's a day, no matter where you go, what nation you go to. None of them count half a day and then wait till the next day to count that half a day and put them together and say there's the one 24-hour day of light. There's lesser light and a greater light. Nobody does that. Where are you getting it from? It's silliness, man. And after that, I pour out my Ruach. The men and the women will prophesy. That's huge. That's happening right now. And I shall give signs in the Shemayim and upon the Eretz, blood and fire and columns of smoke. The sun is turned into darkness and the moon into blood before the coming of the great and awesome Yom of Yahuah. So there you go again. Day of darkness, total darkness, man. Lights out. And it shall be that everyone who calls on the name of Yahuah shall be delivered. For on Mount Zion and in Jerusalem there shall be an escape, as Yahuah has said, and among the survivors whom Yahuah calls. So there you go. There's going to be survivors, and it sounds like it's going to be the ones that actually repent and call out his true name during the day of Yahuah. They're going to be the ones that are left behind to repopulate the restored earth during the millennium reign. Are going to be the ones that called out to his name, calls out in the name of Yahuah, and he delivers them from the day of Yahuah, and they live on to repopulate the earth during the millennium reign. That's what it sounds like to me. Y'all read it yourself. See what you think. Okay, so Amos 5, 18 through 20 says, this is interesting, isn't it? Woe to you who are longing for the Yom of Yahuah. Okay, so if you're sitting there going, oh, wow, man, I can't wait for the day of Yahuah till the wrong get burnt, man. It serves them right. I just can't wait, man. Okay, you're in big trouble. It says, woe to you who are longing for the Yom of Yahuah. What does the Yom of Yahuah mean to you? Why would you be looking forward to it? In other words, it's going to be a horrible day, an awesome day. It's going to be something that we don't want to really experience, but we're going to. It is darkness. See there? It is darkness and not light. See, darkness and not light. It means it's bad, it's evil, it's wicked, it's dark, it's sinister, it's bad news. Something we we shouldn't look forward to experiencing it, is what it's saying. As when a man flees from a lion and a bear shall meet him. Why? Because you run away from the lion, but he can't see because it's so dark. You run smack into a bear, into a grizzly. Or enter into his house. He's falling down, stumbling. He gets to his house. Try to get into his house because he thinks he can get out of the darkness and get protected, right? And so he enters his house and rests his hand on the wall when he gets in there, and a serpent shall bite him. So you think you got it made, and all of a sudden a copperhead bites you, or a rattlesnake or something get you, or a coral snake or something. And the serpent shall bite him. Could be a demon get a hold of you too. You know, never know. But I think here it's really speaking literal, I believe. It is not the Yom of Yahuah darkness and not light? Is it not very dark with no brightness in it? There you go. So yeah, there's your day of darkness. If you're wanting to find out, if you think Leah's total darkness, very dark and sinister and all that, you're mistaken. It's just the lesser light. And Yahusha moved around and did a lot of things. He resurrected himself. He's probably going to be coming back at his second coming during Leah. He walked on the water during Leah. He did a lot of things during Leah. It's just the lesser light. It's not evil and wicked, something you're supposed to avoid. And we're not supposed to do nothing on Leah. Let's wait, go hide in the house until the next great light comes. 24 hours later, we'll skip that 12, trash can it. We'll shuffle that over there and put it in the column of darkness. Well, where are you getting all that? If you read from, Amos 5:21 on down to the end of that chapter, you'll find where Yahuah hated the old priesthood. That's another interesting subject. So let's take a look here now. I mean, every single prophet spoke about the day of Yahuah, man. Look at Psalms 90. It's in 1. It says, Yahuah, you have been our refuge in all. Oh, not 90. I'm in 91. Psalms 91. Let's read it. Psalms 91, man, one of my favorite Psalms here. He who dwells in the secret place of the Most High, who abides under the shadow of the Almighty, he is saying of Yahuah, my refuge and my stronghold, my Elohim, in whom I trust. For he delivers you from the snare of a trapper, from the destruction pestilence. He covers you with his feathers, and under his wings you take refuge. His truth is a shield and armor. You are not afraid of the dread by Leah. Okay, now this is speaking of the day of Yahuah. So some people they use this to try to say that Leah is a dread and we shouldn't do any work. Nobody can do any work and we need to avoid it and we don't count it. But that's not what this is about. This is about the day of Yahuah. Matter of fact, the whole Psalms is, but this 5 and 6 and 7 is powerfully representing the day of Yahuah. Okay, listen to it. You are not afraid of the dread by Leah, or the arrow that flies by Yam. Arrow flies by Yam. So there's nothing bad happens during the Yam. The bad things only happens during the Leah. That's nonsense. There's so much wickedness and evil and bad things that happen during the great light, probably more than during the lesser light. So you can't say, oh, nothing bad happens during the greater light. Everything happens during the lesser light. Where are you getting that from? That's silliness too. You are not afraid of the dread by Leah or the arrow that flies by Yam. This is a 24-hour period. Notice it began with Leah in the evening. Of the pestilence that walks in darkness, or destruction that ravages at midday. Okay, there's destruction that ravages during the greater light, during when it's the most bright, during the midday. Pestilence that walks in darkness. This is what's total darkness? So the day of Yahuah. 1,000 fall at your side, and 10,000 at your right hand, but it does not come near you. When's this all going to be happening? During the day of Yahuah. Only with your eyes you look on, Natsarim, and see the reward of the wrong ones. What's the wrong ones' reward? Gold, silver, jewels, women. What's their reward? Now, their reward is destruction, darkness, doom, gloom, death, pestilence. That's their reward. That's the reward of the wrong. Leading to the second death is their reward as well. Only with your eyes you look on and see the reward of the wrong ones. Nothing good with that reward. It's all bad stuff. They're rewarded with bad things. Because you have made Yahuah my refuge, the Most High, your dwelling place. You dwell in his name. No evil befalls you. No evil befalls you. It comes near you, Natsarim, during the day of Yahuah. And a plague does not come near your tent. That's your body. We'll be in our immortal bodies. For he commands his messengers concerning you to guard you in all your ways. They bear you up in their hands, lest you dash your foot against a stone. You tread upon lion and cobra, young lion and serpent you trample underfoot, because he cleaves to me in love. Therefore I deliver him. I set him on high. Cleaves to me in love. So you endure in love. Your love doesn't grow cold. Because he has known my name. Therefore I deliver him. I set him on high as a treasured possession on the top shelf. You're a treasured possession to Yahuah, Natsarim. He puts you on the high, up on the top shelf. Because he has known my name. When he calls on me, I answer him. I am with him in distress. He's with you during the tribulation years, during the distress. I deliver him and esteem him. With long life, I satisfy him and show him my deliverance. At the end, he's going to show you his deliverance by giving you immortality in a mortal body. This is so powerful stuff here. This Psalms 91 is mind-blowing. So notice, because he has known my name, when he calls on me, I answer him. Okay, not only are the Natsarim calling on his name, they know him. They cleave to him in love. So they know him. They know his name and they know him. And he delivers them. Wow. Powerful, powerful stuff, man. That Psalms 91 is mind-blowing. But it's centered around the day of Yahuah. Is what it's really speaking of. Psalms 91, 62. Psalms 119, 62. I'm saying weird things tonight. Psalms 119, 62. At midleah, this is midnight, folks. At midleah, which could be at the end of the second watch or the beginning of the third watch, I rise to give thanks to you for your righteousness, for your righteous right rulings. How many people here get up in the middle of the night and start reading scripture and praying and talking to Yahuah? I do. He wakes me up quite a bit in the middle of the night. He seems to, not so much recently, but man, he used to do it a lot. I am a companion of all who fear you and of those guarding your orders, obeying the commandments. Yahuah, your kindness has filled the arets. Teach me your laws. You have done good to your servant, Yahuah, according to your word. Teach me good sense, common sense, and knowledge. For I have trusted in your commands. Before I was afflicted, I myself was going astray, but now I have guarded your word. You are good and do good. Teach me your laws. So there you go. Ed midleah, I rise up to give thanks to you for your righteous right rulings. There you go. So, yeah, you can get up and pray and read scriptures and pray to Yahuah in the middle of the night during the second, third watch. Who says you can't? You know, it's silliness. Anybody I know would tell you can't do that would be associated with a demon, if you ask me. So here's a few other interesting things I'm going to touch here real quick. Hebrews 12:29. For instance, says, hi, Tori, glad you're here. Eric, glad you're here. For indeed, our Yahuah is a consuming fire. There you go. So Yahuah is a consuming fire. So does light come from fire? Yeah, it surely does. Look over at Deuteronomy 9:3. And you shall know today that Yahuah your Elohim is he who is passing over before you as a consuming fire. He does destroy them and subdue them before you. Could this be talking about the day of Yahuah? Possibility. Look at Deuteronomy 4:24. Next we can start in 23. Deuteronomy 4:23 and 24. Guard yourselves, lest you forget the covenant of Yahuah, your Elohim, which he made with you. That's the everlasting covenant. That's the 10 Debarim, if you will. 10 Commandments. And shall make for yourself a carved image in the form of whatever Yahuah your Elohim has forbidden you. For Yahuah your Elohim is a consuming fire, a jealous all. So there's no doubt now, at least there shouldn't be, in any of our minds, that Yahuah is a consuming fire. He does destroy them and subdue them before you. You pass an over before you. It's a consuming fire. I mean, that's amazing, man. You know, he's going to get before you as a consuming fire and burn up all the wrong. You give them their reward of being cooked. Could be. It says there'll be ashes underneath our feet. We'll be jumping for joy like a calf out of the stall, and the ashes of them will be ashes under our feet. Wow, mind blowing stuff, isn't it? So many, many, many more times in scriptures, like I said, all the prophets speak of the day of Yahuah, and we've studied about that in the return of the King now. Which happens after the day of Yahuah and then the first resurrection, right? So lastly here now, let's look at some good news, okay? So we've been talking about the second coming of Yahuah is good news. Don't get me wrong. The day of Yahuah is not. The tribulation years is not. First resurrection is good news. But let's look at some more good news. Let's put some more good spin on it here at the end here before we depart ways this evening. And I hope that, we're all going to be able to hear this that we're closing here this study with, and with an exegesis mindset, with everything we've studied, and then with this conclusion here, the good news. Don't use eisegesis. That's no way to conduct yourself in order to find truth. After all, we're supposed to be truth seekers here, all the Natsarim. That's why we've all thrown away and got rid of the holidays and the teaching of the circuses, right? And we're doing the 7 appointed times. I think it's all about truth. And so let's not complicate our search for truth and love by using an eisegesis mindset, because that's what the circus does. In short, it's called cherry picking. Okay. And we don't want to do that. Okay. So let's get a look now here at Revelation 21. Revelation 21. The good news is in Revelation 21. Okay. Yeah. Well. Okay. Let's look at let's back up to 20 real quick and build our way up here to this. So let's look at 2011 real quick. And I saw a great white throne and him who was sitting on it, from whose face the arets in the heaven fled away, and no place was found for them. So this happens after the millennium, right? Okay, so now we went beyond the first resurrection and the millennium reign, and we're into the great white throne judgment era here. The face of the arets in the heaven fled away, and no place was found for them. And I saw the dead, small and great, standing before the throne, and scrolls were opened. And another scroll was opened, which is of life. And the dead were judged from what was written in the scrolls according to their works. So they'll be judged by their works and their words. And the sea gave up the dead who were in it, and death and the grave gave up the dead who were in them, and they were judged, each one according to his works. And the death and the grave were thrown into the lake of fire. This is the second death. And if anyone was not found written in the scroll of life, he was thrown into the lake of fire, which is the second death. Okay. So these will be the goats. They will be thrown into the lake of fire during the great white throne judgment. Okay. So are the ones that were burnt up going to be resurrected and head to flesh and have to face the great white throne judgment? I would say they are. Even the one that blew up in the space shuttle, they will be resurrected and stand in front of the great white throne judgment. Remember, it's just he's going to collect all the people across the earth and the heavens, farthest parts of the heaven, wherever they're at. He's going to get them. He's going to collect them and bring them down into judgment and into the first resurrection as well. Okay, so now the good news here is found in 21. And that is, and I saw a renewed heaven and a renewed earth, for the former heaven and the former earth had passed away, and the sea is no more. And I, Yahuah, saw the set-apart city, renewed Jerusalem, coming down out of the heaven from Yahuah, prepared as a bride adorned for her husband. And I heard a loud voice from the heaven saying, see, the Sakuth of Yahuah is with men. The tent of Yahuah is with men. This is obviously Yahusha, the body of light, is with men. It says Sakuth of Yahuah is with men. The tent of Yahuah, the body of Yahuah, the vessel of Yahuah is Yahusha. He lives in him. That's his body. Okay, just like you live in your body. And he shall dwell with them, and they shall be his people, and Yahuah himself shall be with them and be their Yahuah. And Yahuah shall wipe away every tear from their eyes, and there shall be no more death, no mourning, no crying, and there shall be no more pain, for the former things have passed away. And he who was sitting on the throne said, he who was sitting on the throne, that means one person is sitting on the throne, said, see, I make all things new. And he said to me, write, for these words are true and trustworthy. Okay. So during the, in my opinion now, during the millennium reign, the earth and the heaven will be renewed. It will have to be restored because of the devastation that's going to happen during the day of Yahuah and during the tribulation years as well. And then afterwards, the millennium reign into eternity, it sounds like the earth will be new. He's going to make a new earth and a new heaven for the eternity. Okay, that's what it sounds like to me. But no more crying, no more mourning, no more death. So we know that this is speaking of eternity, because there's going to be death in the millennium reign. People are just going to live a lot longer, and everybody and everything's going to be like it should be, should have been all along. Okay, but they will die and then live a long time, and they're going to repopulate. They're going to reproduce, and the earth, populate the earth. So this has to be, when it says there's no more death, mourning, or crying, it has to be talking about eternity now. So we get a little bit of a hint of eternity here. And Yahuah shall wipe away every tear from their eyes, and there shall be no more death, mourning, or crying. There'll be no more pain, for the former things have passed. Okay, so it's going to be blissful existence, utopia, if you will. And he who was sitting on the throne, see, I make all things new. And he said to me, write, for these words are true and trustworthy. And he said to me, it is done. I am the Aleph and the Tau, the beginning and the end. To the one who thirsts, I shall give the fountain of the water of life without payment. This is the Ruach HaKodesh. It's the water of life without payment. No charge, man. It's a promise. It's a gift of Yahuah, the Ruach HaKodesh. The one who overcomes shall inherit all this, and I shall be his Yahuah, and he shall be my son. Bam. Is that good news or is that good news? Yeah, it's good news. But as for the cowardly and the untrustworthy and abominable and murderers and those who whore and drug sorcerers and idolaters and all the false, their part is in the lake of fire, which burns with fire and sulfur, which is the second death. Now, this second death here is complete darkness. Okay, this is the abyss. This is the outer darkness. This is no existence. This is total annihilation, like you were never born. Nobody ever knew your name, didn't know anything about you. You're gone. It's like you were never created. And one of the 7 messengers who held the 7 bowls filled with the 7 last plagues came to me and spoke with me, saying, "Come, I shall show you the bride, the Lamb's Asha." And he carried me away to the Ruach, to a great and high mountain, and showed me the great city, the Kadesh Jerusalem, descending out of the heaven from Yahuah, having the esteem of Yahuah, and her light was like most precious stone, like a jasper stone, clear as crystal. And having a great and high wall, having 12 gates, and at the gates 12 messengers, and the names written on them, which are the 12 tribes of the children of Yisrael. 3 gates on the east, 3 gates on the north, 3 gates on the south, and 3 gates on the west. And the wall of the city had 12 foundations, and on them were the names of the 12 emissaries of the Lamb. And he who spoke with me had a gold measuring rod to measure the city and its gates and its wall. And the city lies 4-cornered, and its length is as great as its breadth, which means it's going to be a square. It's going to be like a 3-dimensional square, like a box. And he measured the city with the rod, 2,200 kilometers length, and the breadth and the height of it are all equal. See, it's totally equal size. It's a square or a cube, if you will. A cube. And he measured its wall 65 meters according to the measure of a man, that is, of a messenger. And the structure, that's amazing there that they say they're comparing the measure of a man, that is, of a messenger, a man and a messenger, compatible here. Think about that. And the structure of its wall was jasper, and the city was clean gold like clear glass. And the foundations of the wall of the city were adorned with all kinds of precious stones. The first foundation, jasper; second, sapphire; the third, agate; the fourth, emerald; the fifth, sardonyx; the sixth, ruby; the seventh, crystallite; the eighth, beryl; the ninth, topaz; the 10th, chrysoprase; and the 11th, jacinth; and the 12th, amethyst. And the 12 gates were 12 pearls. So the pearly gates are on the New Jerusalem, people. It's not in a place called heaven, okay, or St. Peter's Garden. The pearly gates are in fact, there's 12 of them, not just one. Each one of the gates was a single pearl, and the street of the city was clean gold, like transparent glass. And I saw no Mishkan in it, for Yahuah Al Shaddai and is its Mishkan and the Lamb. Okay, so this city with its dimensions, this New Jerusalem, it's like a cube, and the size of it is comparable to our moon. It's about the same size as our moon, or almost the same size as Alaska if it was a cube. You know, it had the depth and the width the same. So it's pretty big. So can you imagine that coming down into Israel there by by Jerusalem? Amazing, man. One thing I've noticed here, I don't know if y'all caught this or not, but this seems to happen after the Great White Throne Judgment. So that would be after the tribulation, after the day of Yahuah, after the return of the King of Kings, after the first resurrection, after the millennium reign, after the great white throne judgment, this city comes down into eternity, for eternity, upon the new earth and the new heaven, the new city. So that tells me right there, the wrong, those who are judged wrong and thrown in the lake of fire, which is the second death, are not going to see the new city. Only the bride, only those who are judged as sheep will see the new Jerusalem. The wrong will never see this beautiful city. It's amazing. But let me point this verse 22 out. I think it's extremely powerful here. And I saw no temple in it, no Mishkan in it, speaking of the city, Jerusalem. For Yahuah Al Shaddai is its temple and the Lamb. So they're the temple. Now listen to this. And the city has no need of the sun. So apparently the sun never lit back up. No need for it. And this is in eternity. This is giving us a glimpse of eternity, folks. Think about it. No need for the sun nor the moon. So they're not going to be lit back up. Matter of fact, I'll go as far as saying they're going to be destroyed. To shine in it. No sun nor moon to shine in it. For the esteem of Yahuah lightened it, and the Lamb is its lamp. Okay. So this is extremely powerful stuff here. We got to catch this one. So Yahuah lighted it, and the Lamb is its lamp. Okay, so Yahuah's Ruach, remember he's a consuming fire. Yahuah's Ruach is the wick, or the consuming fire, the fire, if you will, the light, or the oil that burns, okay, and gives us the light, okay, the fire. See that? And the Lamb is its lamp, which is his body. So the Lamb is its lamp, is the vessel, the body, the tent, if you will, body of light, that the Ruach is inhabiting, is dwelling in, that holds the oil, which produces the flame and lights everything up. So mind-blowing. What this is saying here, I'm paraphrasing it now, is that the Lamb is the body or the lamp. Yahuah is the light or the fire in the new city. That's amazing, man. That blows me away. I don't know about y'all. And the nations of those who are delivered, the nations of those who whoever said only a remnant's going to be delivered and go into eternity? Where'd you get that from? Here it's telling me that the nations of those who are delivered. So there's going to be nations, that's plural, of people who are delivered. That's a lot of people. There's going to be nations of people delivered, folks, not a remnant into eternity. So what's everybody doing? What's all this remnant talk about? Only a few are chosen. Many are called, but only a few are chosen to go to eternity. There's only going to be 8 of us, like Noah. There was only 8 on the ark, so only 8 are going to be delivered. Come on, man. Where are you getting the nonsense from? Not even Christians talk that way. That's an exaggeration and untruth. It's going to be nations of people are going to be delivered. Let's get it right. The remnant is in reference to his bride, not those who are going to be delivered and live in eternity with him. There's going to be a lot of them, nations of them. That's multitudes. Okay. The remnant is the lamb, is the bride, Israel. That'll be a remnant. And those will be his body. They will be the lamb. They will be his chosen, his election, Israel, his body of light. And they will dwell with him forever because they're going to be part of him. They're going to be his physical body. Whoa. Yeah. And chances are that will be made up by 144,000. That's what I think the 144,000 is the remnant that makes up the bride. But there's going to be nations of people delivered. Nations. The mansion was full at the wedding feast. It was full to capacity. All right. So that's good news. And the nations of those who are delivered, that's a lot of people. Matter of fact, Scripture goes on and tells us that those that are delivered, that a man can't even count them. It's such a great number that a man can't even count them. Okay, so yeah. I don't know where y'all are getting that. Some people are getting that from, but it's not true, man. Shall walk in its light. The nations of those who are delivered shall walk in its light, and the sovereigns of the Arets bring their esteem into it. So there's going to be sovereigns that are in charge of these nations. Okay. So a nations applies to many people. Nations. Okay. You can't say nations and apply that to a remnant. It ain't going to happen. You're taking it totally out of context, totally out of it. Don't even make common sense. And its gates shall not be shut at all by Yom, for Leah shall not be there. Okay, so this now sounds as though the lesser light's gone. The only thing that's going to remain is the greater light, 24/7, 365. Not going to be any Leah. So that tells me there's not going to be any need to sleep. We're not going to have to go to sleep and rest our bodies. Our bodies are going to be go machines, man. We're going to be working and loving and caring and serving Yahuah 24/7, 365, man, in eternity. For Leah shall not be there, and they shall bring the esteem and the appreciation of the nations, plural, into it. And there shall be no means enter into it whatever is unclean, neither anyone doing abominations and falsehood, but only those who are written in the Lamb's scroll of life. So there you go. There's not going to be any bad stuff there at all. People are going to be able to come in there. They should be by no means enter into what is unclean. That's not going to exist. Neither anyone doing abominations and falsehoods. None of that's going to exist. But only those who are written in the Lamb's scroll of life. Very powerful stuff right there, man. Okay. That about wraps us up for the evening. There's our study. So the only other thing I'd like to point out here is that the nations, the people of the nations that are going to be in eternity, that are going to come in, the gates will not be closed. That means they're going to come into the city to worship Yahuah. They're going to be doing something when they come. The nations come to esteem Yahuah and praise Yahuah and whatever. And they're going to be going in, and they'll go in, do whatever they're going there to do, because the gates will not be closed, and there will be no Leah. And then they're going to go back out to their nations, right? And we know they're going to be friends or servants of Yahuah and the bride. And the interesting thing is the bride will be in the new city all the time because it's the body of Yahuah. So the bride isn't going in and out. The bride lives there, going to be with Yahuah forever in that new city, Jerusalem. See what I'm saying? So the ones that are coming in and out, the sovereigns of the nations and whoever else, they're coming there to serve Yahuah, the bride will be with Yahuah, but will be his body. And will always live there. The bride will always live there with him in that city. That's going to be our home, eternal home, living with our husband, Yahuah. You see that? So very, very good. And the proof of that really is in Revelations 22. It's a very short thing, but very precise and accurate in what I just said. And it's down here on 22:17. It says, and the Ruach and the bride say, come. And there you go. That's it. See, so the Ruach and the bride say, come. They're one. Come to New Jerusalem. If you're thirsty, get the Ruach, get the feed your truth, the manna from heaven, the words of Yahuah, drink the living waters, come. So the whole point is the bridegroom, the Ruach Hagadesh, and the bride say, come. So they're oneness. They become one. Much like matrimony between a man and a woman, which is actually speaking of Yahusha and his assembly, his body, spiritually. The human man and woman being married is the literal or the shadow to what is to come, and that's the matrimony or the oneness between Yahusha and his bride, and live in the New Jerusalem together for eternity. Okay, so that's it. That's the end of our study. And so the main thing that, we need to see here is we learn now about the return of Yahushua HaMashiach, the King of Kings and Master of Masters. And we've learned about the day of Yahuah, that it's total darkness, a day of gloom and doom that we're not supposed to be looking forward to. We should look forward to the return of our King, but not the day of Yahuah. It's not going to be pleasant. And we wish, we shouldn't wish anybody to have to suffer on the day of Yahuah to revenge us or whatever. That's nonsense. If anything, we should be praying for them to repent and be delivered, even no matter what they've done to us. We want to be perfect like our Father in heaven, and we must be perfect in love because Yahuah is love. And we are children of Yahuah, so we are children of love. That's who we are. Truth will lead us to find love, which is Yahuah. And once we find Yahuah, it's truth. Truth is the scriptures, man. Scriptures are truth, the Torah. It's also Yahusha. So the truth will lead us to love, and we can find love. It's the vessel that takes us to love, if you will. And once we find love, we find Yahuah, and we find ourselves, because we are love, like him. So we find ourselves. So when we find ourselves, we find Yahuah, we're completed. We're complete. It's who we are. So the sequence, I think, is clear. And the message, even though I think it's hidden, it's a secret message of Yahushua, is clear to those who have understanding and know Yahuah, know his name and knows him. It becomes very clear. The secret message is revealed. And that's the sequence of things that are going to happen and the events of those things, so that we're not fooled in the end times and in the days of great distress by the false Mashiachs and the false prophets who are going to appear all over the place and give credit to false Mashiachs and false prophets. The people will be giving credit to them and say that it's the Yahusha doing it, or maybe the J-Man doing it. Probably more likely what's going to be happening. But either way, it could be Yahusha at that point, under the correct name, but under a deluded Besora, or a false doctrine of demons being taught in the name of somebody saying that they're Yahusha. And not in his name, but they're going to say they are him and be using his name. But teaching a false doctrine, pushing the agenda of the Hashatan. Okay, so wow, what a study. And I hope everybody learned as much as I did, because Yahusha blowed my mind this evening and this whole week, really, with a lot of things, even well beyond what we've just studied. So I'm just kind of amazed and just blown away, really, at this particular moment. So I hope you all learned a lot too, and I hope you not only know the true name of our Creator, which is Yahuah, but I also hope that you study the scriptures in detail and try to be precise on what it's telling us word by word, and that you get closer and closer to knowing your Creator, Yahuah, Al Shaddai. So tomorrow is the Zoom at Noon meeting. We're in Galatians. If anybody would like to join us there, it's on this same channel at 12 o'clock noon, midday, Eastern Standard Time. And we have a lot of fun on there. We learn a lot of things. Everybody gets to talk and gets to share their thoughts and interpretations. We don't quench the Ruach, and we don't prevent people from talking. Everybody's allowed to interject. So it's a lot of fun. We learn a lot of stuff. We learn more about Yahuah as we go. It's amazing. Those who have been with us since we started this have progressed to amazing heights in knowledge of Yahuah. All esteem to Yahusha, our teacher. So you're more welcome to join us. I don't know what you would be doing otherwise anyway on Yom Shabbat. You should be home resting and studying the word of truth and praising Yahuah and celebrating the Shabbat that he gave us. It's a day of delight. It's not a day of gloom and doom. Can't wait for it to get over with stuff. I have so much fun on the Shabbat. My wife enjoys the Shabbat because she don't have to cook or do any housework and stuff or whatever. The kids love it too. You know, we have a good time. We look forward to it, and it usually ends, and we don't even realize it ended. It goes so fast for us. And I love the most exciting thing, the thing I think I like the most about Yom Shabbat is when I get to study and associate with other Natsarim, the beloved of Yahuah. That's really what I look forward to. It's a great honor to be able to study scriptures with the beloved of Yahuah. If you haven't never done it, join us tomorrow. See what it's like. It's marvelous. All righty. Oh, man, and don't forget, remember to stay in love with Yahusha. That's critical. Thank everybody in the chat room for coming on, studying with me, studying with each other, having a conversation with each other and loving each other. Thank all of you. Thank all of you that didn't come in the chat room and is watching. Thank all of you who didn't watch but will watch later on. Thank you. And other than that, folks, I'll see y'all next week, if not tomorrow. So long, Natsarim. Enjoy your Yom Shabbat. And peace and love to everybody. So long, Natsarim, beloved of Yahuah. So long, everybody. See you next week or tomorrow.